Hello, Miss Boyd here, and I am going to show you how to draw some 3D shapes. We're going to learn how to draw these shapes first, then we're going to turn around, use those shapes, put them together, and create a castle. First thing I want to do is fold my paper in half. And then in half again. So now I'm going to have my paper folded in fourths, which means I'm going to have 4 sections, just like this. So we're going to first start with the easiest shape, which would be a sphere. Now you can use a regular pencil, mechanical, traditional. You can use colored pencils. Crayons work just as well. I think I'm going to use colored pencils just because I think they're fun. So I'm going to start, you can start in any square you want. It does not matter. I'm going to start over here. I'm going to start with the circle shape, because a sphere, if you take a sphere and you squish it flat, it does look like a circle. I see that it's a little more difficult to see, so I'm going to go ahead and make it a little darker. All right, so right now it does look like it's flat, like a 2D shape. We want 3D. We need 3 things to show depth. So actually we need 4 things to show 3D or to show depth. So the first thing I'm going to do, in the top left corner, I'm going to put a little X. That's going to be my light source. That's going to be where this light is shining down on it. Like it could be a sun, it can be a light bulb, it can be anything you want, but that's where the light shines down. So the opposite of light is dark. So if I have the light over here, the opposite side would be the dark. The shadow, if you think about shadows, shadows are the exact same shape as their object. If you see a shadow of yourself on the ground, it looks like you. If you see a shadow of a airplane, it looks like an airplane. So the shadow of a sphere looks like the sphere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off real light. Notice I'm holding my pencil in the very far back. I'm going to start off light and create like a circle. And I just keep going around light, light, light until I get the shape that I like. Then, because this is light and this is dark, I'm going to hold my pencil up close to the point, and then I'm going to color that shape in dark for the shadow. Now if you notice, I'm actually coloring around in loops, because if I were to color in a straight line, it creates like striping, which is not in itself bad, but that's just not what I want it to look. Plus it's easier to go around the edges. If I'm going in a loop, it's easier to keep it around in the curved shape. So then I go back in and make sure all of it's nice and dark, because you can see I have some light areas and some dark. So I'm going to just make sure it's all even. Just like this. And if I get outside the lines, then I just curve it around and just make it slightly larger, so now nobody knows that I messed up. So I do have the shadow of my sphere. So we do light, dark, now we go back to light. So the light's shining down, and you have what's called reflected light. You learned about reflections in science. So the edge of the sphere, the light comes down and then it bounces off. So if you've ever seen the shiny part on a windshield of a car, if you've walked by and the sun is shining just right and it kind of blinds you a little bit, exact same thing. This is the shiny part, but it needs to be light. Light, dark, so this is light. I'm going to hold my pencil at the very, very back and just light, 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 curve around, because it is a curved shape. Light, 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 just like that. Then light, dark, light. Now we go back to dark. I call it the dark side of the moon. So if the light is shining here, the opposite of light would be dark. So this edge of the sphere is going to be dark. Now, for me, curving my hand like this works okay, but for me, it's easier if I can curve my hand like this. So I'm actually going to flip my paper upside down and hold it like a pencil, like you're writing your name closer to the point. And I'm going to have this darker edge. They do not touch, the dark and the light do not touch. I'm going to leave a little bit of a space. So, when it's all said and done, the flat circle is starting to look more like its 3D shape. It's starting to get a sphere type shape. So the next shape we're going to do is a cylinder. A cylinder would be like a glass or a Coke can. The top of it is going to be a circle, and the bottom is a circle. Now, if you notice, this one is not symmetrical. On the top and the bottom, they're not even, but it still has the circle on the top, which is the important part that I actually want to point out to you. If this is a circle, and I slowly tip it, you can see how that circle does not look like a circle anymore. Instead, it's starting to look more like an oval. It actually goes flat. So you know it's a circle, only artists don't draw what they know. I know this is a circle, but when I tip it, it does not look like a circle. So I'm going to draw what I see. I see an oval that's flat on the top and flat on the bottom. So I'm going to draw on the top an oval, just like this. And then, because cylinders have straight edges, I'm going to go straight down and straight down. Now, it does not matter if your cylinder is wide or tall, as long as you have the oval on the top and the straight sides. The bottom of a cylinder also has a circle on it. So we're going to add the curve to the bottom. So automatically that looks 3D. It looks like you have a 3D shape. We're going to go back and add the light, dark, light, dark. So again, top left corner, I put a little X, and that just represents the light. Now, you don't have to do the X, and the X does not have to be in the top left. You can put it in any corner, in the middle, anywhere you want your light source to be. I'm going to keep it pretty simple, so it's all the same as far as the light, dark, light, dark. So we have light, then the bottom is the dark. So we have the same shape is what the shadow is going to look like. So I'm actually going to go a little bit over the fold, which is fine, but I start with the straight edges. And then it has a curved top, so I'm going to add the curved top, just like that. And remember, this is dark, light, dark. So this is going to be colored dark. Now, this one I'm going to go ahead and color with straight lines because I'm okay with showing the straight striping for this. Now, notice I leave a little space on the edge because that's where I go in just a little bit. If you color where you crisscross your lines, let me show you exactly what I'm talking about, crisscrossing. So say for instance, I'm coloring this direction, and then at some point I want to color this direction. You can see where the two lines, they crisscross. You have side to side and up and down. In art, it's called cross-hatching. Sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't. This, when you cross-hatch, sometimes if you don't do it on purpose, it can actually look like scribble scrabble. So we're going to go back and just make sure that I don't have any of the cross-hatching or the crisscrossing, because I don't want that on this. So as you can tell, my dog is rearranging himself on his bed. All right, so we have the light, dark. Now we need to go back to the light. The light is going to be reflecting on the side. Now this is a straight line, so I'm going to hold my pencil at the very back and color light, 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 light. Just like this. Now, if I get outside the lines, for instance, I accidentally color on the top, that's not a big deal. If you use a pencil, just erase it. Because I realized I actually had an extra line that I didn't want to keep there either. So we have light, dark, light, dark. So we have the shading, or like I like to say, the dark side of the moon. So I'm going to hold it a little closer. Nice and dark. But I want a straight line. My hand naturally has a curve when I color. So I'm going to try to keep it as straight as possible. Now, you can leave it as a straight line like that, but real artists, what they do is as they get closer to the lighter, they'll move their hand back a little bit and then make this lighter. Move your hand back a little bit and make it lighter. This is called fading, where it actually slowly gets lighter, lighter, lighter. So this side is the dark side, the shading, and then it slowly gets lighter, lighter, lighter. So now we have our cylinder. So the third one we're going to do is going to be a cone. A cone, if you think about it, the cone has the circle on the bottom, and then it comes to a point like the triangle. So the easiest way to draw a cone is to start with the point. So I like to put just a little tiny dot. Then I draw straight lines like I'm drawing a triangle. But because it has a circle on the bottom like the cylinder, we're going to draw the same curve. Just like that. So it kind of is starting to look like a cone, but what I'm going to do is start with the light, dark, light, dark. So in the top left corner again, I'm going to put a little X. Then the dark would be the shadow. So again, the cone has the straight lines, but they come to a point. So I'm going to have the straight line, and it comes to a point. Then, since it's dark, I hold it like I'm writing my name. And I just draw or color it in a little darker. Now, like I said, you can do this with crayons. You can color crayons light and dark. The problem with markers, you can't do light and dark unless you change colors. If you have a light blue marker and a light dark blue marker, then you can use two different colored markers. But as far as adding it with the same, markers don't work very well. Just regular pencils, you can do light and dark. Colored pencils, crayons, anything like that where you can get a variation of light and dark just by holding it and pushing down. That's what you need. That's what works best for this. So I have the light, dark. So now I go back to the light. Now a cone is small at the top and gets bigger at the bottom. So my light, again I hold it in the back, starts off at the top, very small, and then it gets bigger at the bottom. Just like this. Super light. So we have the light, dark, light. Now we're doing the dark. Starts off small, then it gets bigger at the bottom, and then I'm going to move in, color it in a little bit darker. So if you leave it like this, that's perfectly fine. It still has the 3D effect, but if you want to do it to where real artists kind of faded into the lighter, then I'm going to move my hand back a little bit and then kind of color it a medium lightness, just barely touching the paper. Then I move it all the way back and then just barely, just like that. So So remember, the light and the dark never touch. All right, the last one is the most complicated one to actually draw. We're going to be doing the cube. So the cube can be very tricky. I'm going to show you the easiest way to draw a cube. If you take a cube and you squish it flat, it actually looks like a square. So I have somewhat of a cube-shaped eraser. As you can tell, the corners have been used, so they're not super pointy. But I do want to show you what it will end up looking like. So if you use your imagination, you can see that this used to be a square. We're going to tip it a little bit like this, so you can see side 1, side 2, side 3, the front, side, and the top. But you'll be able to see all 3. In fact, you can only see 3 at a time when you have a cube. So our cube is going to look very, very, very similar to this. So we're going to start with the square. And again, I am drawing lightly in case I need to fix it. I'm okay with it. It's a little crooked, but I'm not using a ruler, so I'm actually okay with it. And then any place I don't like, then I'll just go back and erase it. So I have this square, the basic shape of a cube. Then I'm going to add the 2 sides. One on the side, one on the top. Remember where we put the X in the top left corner? I'm going to draw a line like I'm going to the X. So this top corner, top left corner, I'm going to draw a straight line and stop. It's going to this corner. Let me fold the paper so you can see exactly where the corner is. So as you can see, it's going straight to that corner. Now this is where it gets a little confusing, especially if you've never done a cube before. The top corner here, do not go straight up. That does not look like a cube at all. It will never look like a cube. It looks just kind of off. So do not go straight up. Also, do not go the opposite direction. All right, we're making a symmetrical or a equilateral cube, so we're not going opposite directions. Instead, the top right corner is going to go back to where the X is. So I'm going to draw a pretend line like I'm going to the X, just like that. So then I drop down to the bottom left corner. Again, don't go down. Don't go perfectly straight across. It's going to go up to this point. So it's going to go up to that corner. So you see how all 3 of these, my pencil doesn't bend or twist. It's going to go straight, straight. They're all even. Now you're going to connect it. I'm sure you can sort of start seeing the cube now. You have the front, the side, the top. But I did purposely mess up. These lines are not even. These lines are not equal in length. If I connect them, do you see how it looks crooked? Like this line is moving in at the bottom. I don't want that. I want to keep it parallel. So I want to keep the line going the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a parallel just like that. But I notice that it doesn't touch right there, so then I just add a little bit. So this is a parallelogram. You can see the sides are equal and it's not a square, it's slanted a little bit. So it is a parallelogram on the side and it will actually be a parallelogram on the top. So again, I'm going to start at this one, and if I draw a line, keep it parallel with this one. I'm not matching to the end. I want to keep it parallel. You see how I have a little tail. It's not right. Like I said, I'm not using a ruler. So if it's not what I want, I just erase it. And then I have my cube. So while the cube automatically looks 3D, we're going to add the light, dark, light, dark. So again, in the top left corner, I'm going to put a little bitty X. That's my light that's shining down. My shadow, the dark, is going to be here. So the cube has straight edges, just like this. And it has a flat top. Just like that. Again, this is another parallelogram. If you're looking at it, it kind of looks like it's a box upside down, and that's the lid. And then I just go in, hold it like I'm writing my name, and I'm going to color it dark. And I get close to the edge, but I don't want to overlap it, cross over the line, because I'm coloring dark. It will not erase. And I just add in a little bit. I'll make sure I'm not cross-hatching or crisscrossing. Now, if you cross-hatch and you like it, then keep it. I just don't want it for mine. So I have the shadow. So I have the light, dark, now we need the light. So the light is shining down on this one side. Hold the pencil at the very back. And I color the entire flat side. Light, light, light. Just like that. So light, dark, light. So the dark is going to be this entire front panel. So I can color it up and down if I want. I can color it side to side. Around in a circle doesn't really work as far as making it look very realistic. It kind of messes up the illusion. So I actually need to hold it closer to make sure it's nice and dark. And keep it going. And I can cross over a little at the bottom because they're both dark. And if I'm using the same amount of pressure and making it the same darkness, it won't show that I've crossed over. So make sure it's all the same. Got a little cross-hatching, a little crisscrossing, but I'm okay with it. So as you can tell, the darks, the shading and the shadow are kind of blending together. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the very point of my pencil and add a line just like that. So now you have your 4 3D shapes. We're going to use these shapes and create a castle in the next video.